The world as we see it is not the world God created. That's to start. The world we see is not the one God created. So when we stand around praying for God to fix the world we see, it's as though we're saying, we want you to make the world we see into something that it isn't. The world we see is one that we've put our layers of judgment and pain and hurt and illusion over that. So underneath it, there is a light that is God. What we should be praying for is to see the world of God that's hidden from us when we see pain and war and destruction. Instead of telling God how we want to see the world, do it this way, God. Hey, God, listen, we think there's a war going on. We want you to fix that. Hey, God, listen, I think I'm going through a divorce. I want you to get my partner to see things my way. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And yet people have built religions around the idea that that's what prayer is. That's how you get close to God, by telling God what to do. And instead, how could you get closer to God than being one with God? And you are one with God when you learn to say, show me how you see the world. Let me see it as you see it. Then I'm instantly becoming the God that I'm praying to, because I'm seeing the world as God sees it. And when I see the world as God sees it, there are veils that are lifted. That's what the word Buddha, I'm awake, means. The one who's awakened. It means, wow, got it. Ooh, cool. You know, they're all the same. It means I got it. I'm awake. I now see the real world. And that's a world of tranquility. Remember, the word bliss is synonymous with God. Okay? God, the creator, we'll call it the Father. The Father is bliss. But the Father is also creative power. The mother aspect of God is love. It's love. But we're the child or children of God. And when they say Jesus was God's only begotten Son, it means Jesus was part of God's only begotten creation. God created its children, and it's all of us. So we all hold that same title. So God the Father is bliss and creative power. The mother is love. But we're also part of all this. So who are we? What is our name? Well, we're the light of God. In the beginning was the Word, and phrases like that. It's talking about the Word of God, which is us. But it also says, let there be light, which is us. We're the creation of God. So what other words are synonymous with us? You know what? One of them is joy. We are the joy of God. The way a mother can say, this is my joy. This baby is my joy. Well, we're the joy of God. How is it that we can be so bummed all the time? How's it feeling to be, the joy of God? Well, not real good. It should be like, we should be like, kind of hopping where we stand, like that excited. We are the joy and we are the peace, which is one reason why Jesus was called the Prince of Peace. We are the creation of God, but we're synonymous with the joy of God and the peace of God. So that means we're supposed to be living joy. Now, those are divine words, actually. That joy is a divine feeling. So I'm not saying that you should all be expecting yourselves to feel joy. On earth, joy translates to something called happiness. So joy is a state of God consciousness. That's our divinity, and so is inner peace. A peace that surpasses understanding means a divine state that humans won't get. But we can have a human version of it. And the human version of joy is happiness. And this means this: God created us to be joyous and happy, joyous and peaceful. God created, it's like saying the humans aren't going to really totally get joy and bliss and love of the divine, but you get your versions of it. So when you ask yourself, are you really truly happy? Like where it's pushing the envelope to the concept of joy. Most people don't answer yes to that question. And if they do, they usually mean a certain area of their life. I'm talking about it more like the embodiment. Do you feel the embodiment of that joy? Now, for us to understand what joy and happiness is, to a degree, we kind of have to understand what it isn't. And I have to say, just right off the bat, happiness, joy and happiness are not the same as human excitement. That's different. The reason people do alcohol and drugs and other addictions is they're trying to feel even an ounce of the happiness that they forgot how to feel. They're either trying to stimulate themselves to feeling happy or sedate the fact that they're not. You see that? I'm talking every addiction, codependence and every addiction, not just chemicals. Every addiction is either sedating that I'm not happy. Now I don't feel so bad. That doesn't mean I'm feeling good. I just don't feel so bad. And the other is, no, I'm actually doing pretty well. I feel very good. That's not joy. The thing is, joy can only come from a divine connection. And happiness can only come on earth from having that connection. So our feeling true happiness is an inside job. It comes from feeling connection. It doesn't come from anything outside. So one thing that happiness and joy are not are things that come from other people. So you'll never feel happy and joyous in your life if you still are waiting for the approval of other people. You have to learn to not care what people think of you, or think that when they don't give you what you think you want. Well, I want to be happy, and if you give me this, I'll be happy. Is that a good deal? I'll even give you what you think you want, and then you'll think you're happy. And that way we can both think we're not doing so bad. Would you marry me? You know, I do. You've done this. Okay. So we have some mind changing to do. We have some shifting to do. Happiness is coming from connection with God. And secondly, if there's a second thing, it's from living that. Connecting with God and then living our soul's purpose. It feels amazing when you're fulfilling your soul's purpose. Everybody in this room has had a moment where time seems to fly when you're what? Having fun, right? Now, anybody can have that happen. Even people that are not connected to God and feeling all blissed out and connected with soul's purpose. Even humans that are doing something remotely interesting to them or fun to them, time can fly. Imagine taking that and multiplying it by 1,000, by 1,000,000 perhaps. That's what it can be like for us. That everything, time can fly, yes, but so can everything else. It's almost like you're in timelessness. I call it a miracle bubble, multi-dimensional consciousness. Simply because, which means you don't tire as quickly. You don't get as weary, you don't get as blocked, and you don't buy into as many problems in this world. I'm kind of too busy being happy. Silly me. You know, that's kind of the answer you would give the world. You're feeling blissed. And if I'm not feeling happy and joyous, it's important to remember, by default, you're depressed. If you're not feeling happy, you're automatically depressed, because not being happy is very depressing. But understand, when you think, well, I'm not feeling happy, but I don't feel depressed, you are depressed by default. If you're not feeling happy, you're automatically depressed. You just may not know it yet. But every time that we try to seek happiness outside, through the approval of others and so on, as I mentioned, there actually will come an emotional hangover for that. There's hell to pay, in other words. Even though, well, I didn't mean anything bad by it. I was just kind of, I was hoping that this person would give me approval. I was hoping that that person would like me, and so on. Every bit of that. We all find ourselves into a karmic contract when we do that. And yet I'm not saying you're supposed to become cold to people, detached from people. It's just that we're supposed to learn to be interdependent. We're supposed to be so full of joy, connected with God, and happiness on the human level, that our cup runs over. So when you find yourself needing someone else to give you some of that approval, what it says is, I'm empty and I'm afraid, or I'm desperate. That thing called emptiness is very scary and very dangerous. As soon as we start to feel empty, I always use the analogy, you're like the astronaut. Imagine the astronaut or deep sea diver, they go out of their capsule, there's an airline that gives them oxygen. And then imagine somebody accidentally closes a door or something on that airline. That astronaut or diver isn't going, God, this is amazing. I'm feeling such tranquility. As soon as they sense a lack, that they're empty, they're feeling what's going to happen is they start to feel desperate for air. And that's what people do with romance. If I lack an awareness of my own value, I don't just want to have a partnership, I need a partnership. And that is very dangerous. Because whoever I find is basically in a no-win situation. Whoever I find is up creek because your assignment is to fix my airline. What do you think? What do you think in spiritual analogy? What do you think the air is? The presence of God, our life, our source of life. So you go and marry somebody or hook up with somebody or partner with somebody thinking, I'm feeling a bit desperate, and you'll do because, you make me feel a little excitement. You told me I look young. You told me I have a great body. You told me that I'm a wonderful person or whatever it is. You feel this little bit of, it's like a little more air. But it's only simulated air. It isn't the real thing. All that we long for in each other can only come from God. And then that always depresses people. Instead of them going, that's it. Wow. They start to get kind of bummed. Because, isn't that, there's something wrong with that sentence. And I don't know what I don't like about it, but I don't like it. That all that we want comes from God. Well, if you track it, you'll find that it brings up memories of being like nuns and priests and so forth in the past, where you said, all that I would like comes from God, which means I can't have money or sex or anything else that's worthwhile on planet Earth. I'm just going to kind of live very meek and meager. That's just an old program. God didn't tell you that being connected to God is supposed to mean you're supposed to be all chaste and celibate and broke. God's like, if I was there, I'd have a good time, man, if I were you. Just saying. Have fun. But what you do with love. That's all. Can you have some wine and enjoy wine as though it's water? Or do you have to get drunk? See, when you have to take things overboard, something's wrong inside. Can you have relationship without smothering a person or without clawing into them? Can you do it without desperation? That's kind of what God would say to us. I want you to be happy. Happy. Religion's never taught us that. And we've had religion for many lifetimes. But think about it, guys. The thing that we trusted to be our connection to God failed to tell us what God was wanting to tell us. That makes no sense. That's a good conspiracy story, the greatest in history. That which God would want us to know was not told to us. Well, what is it? It's a big secret. So you guys, you have to get ready, and then you have to do 5 Hail Marys and 6 push-ups before you earn the right to know this secret. What is it? Tell us. Oh, and you have to chant so many lifetimes and breath work and pranayama and put your eyes to your third eye and, roll your eyes back and water only, don't eat, so that you can learn the secret. And what is the big secret? And what's the big conspiracy? That God wants us to be happy. Instead of, and God wants us to do this, and what God wants, mantras 6 hours a day, and God wants you to do this, and God wants you to do, and so on and so on. God's saying, wow, how did you guys come up with all that? In God, in me, God's saying, in God, in me, there's just being. There's no effort. There's no doing. There's just relax into the truth of who you are. Well, who are we? God said, we say to God, your love and your peace and your joy. Okay, so how do we feel love? You mean partnership? No, start with yourself. Why don't you feel joyous on a regular basis? Well, because a lot of times when I feel joy, there's always somebody there to shame it. Somebody to tell me I shouldn't be feeling so joyous. I felt joyous when I ended a relationship that was abusive, but then my parents told me I was wrong for ending it. And then I felt joyous when I left the one job that was all about just the income and retirement for a job that paid less, but I loved doing it. And everybody told me I was crazy. I needed therapy. You see, and God's going, well, why did you listen to him? And that's a good question. Why did you listen to him? Why did you ever listen to anybody that was counterproductive to your ability to find joy. There is a reason. Yes, they're naughty people for doing that to you. I know. They're bad people. But, naughty. But, why did you listen to them? Don't forget your responsibility in this. On this planet, people will say things that aren't empowering and they're not loving. But one has to ask oneself, why did we even listen? And it's because I chose to forget who I am. And if I forget to, who I am, then I'm more susceptible to hearing what other people want to tell me I am. Oh, I can tell you what you are. You're a nice person in general, but that was really a bad decision, and you really should have done this. And now what are you going to do? At the end of your life, you won't have somebody to grow old with, and you should have stayed together on behalf of the kids who would need therapy anyway. So the world really has no good advice. It can only look like it once in a while. But the world is really often reflecting our choice to be alone and afraid. So God is saying, how can we get you to just accept peace and love again? How can we just get you to feel joy? And we can start with the very basics, guys. Jobs, relations, things that are not congruent with joy, start letting them go. I mean, I've used examples many times in talks, but, why would you keep photo albums of creepy people? Just let them go. Oh, but memories. What kind of memories, But what's amazing? Yeah, if they're not great, why would you want to keep that? Oh, just, for depressing days, So, if you're getting the idea that it's not great to hold on to depressing memories in a photo album, all the people, who betrayed you, there's another one. Yeah, you know what they did? Oh, let me tell you, If you can see the ridiculousness of keeping that kind of memories in photo albums, then what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing the ridiculousness of keeping them in here and in here. When you can see, because the outside doesn't cure the inside, but the outside can send messages to the inside. So when I clear out those photo albums, it's a message to myself, are you ready to let go of the inside as well? And yes, I am. So here I am. Divine Mother, the Divine Mother's my healer. She's my teacher. So Divine Mother, come to me. Holy Spirit, or any word you want to use for it, come to me and heal me. Enter my mind and help me to release the things that do not reflect my holiness. Wait, not everything that doesn't reflect my... How about just things I'm thinking about and giving permission for today? Because some things I want to keep in case I need them. That's what happens. As soon as you start surrendering, the ego's going, I wouldn't let it all go. Just keep some of it. What are you going to have all this empty space? Don't clean out your whole house of junk and your whole garage. Keep some, so you have something to be annoyed at, something to trip over when you walk through the room. That is the ego, and it convinces us that there's value in holding on to hurtful things. So we have a destiny, guys, and our destiny, it has nothing to do with, I'm not even going into multi-dimension and this dimension and that, light beings and all the good, cool things we can talk about that happen between now and our complete awakening. But what I'm talking about is the most essential and the simplest to achieve, which is the remembrance of who we are. We're the joy of God. God is saying to us, you are my joy. You're my bundle of joy. I really love having you. I just don't understand why you're always sad. And I don't mean sad literally, but the sad state we're in. How could you possibly be struggling financially when I've created you wealthy and abundant? How could you be sick when I've created you whole? How could you be anxious when I've created you the embodiment of peace? How could you be sad or depressed when I've created you as joy? It should be obvious with all that in mind that our job is to get out of the way. Our job is to learn to heal those pieces. That's our function on earth. Forgiveness, healing. You can't sit around and just chant your way into heaven. I know some people think you can. Go ahead and chant your way into heaven, but if you have unhealed wounds, they're just going to keep you tethered here anyway. Tethered to illusion and pain. So you just chant yourself into some, blissful or pseudo-blissful state, but you're still going to be called to look at your stuff. Essentially called to look at your stuff. I shared in my online course that we started this last week, the online Heart of a Course in Miracles course. And it's still, you have time to get into that if you'd like to join us. But in that online course, I said this, and it came to me just as I was talking in that moment. I said, people are sort of thinking of awakening as almost like a race. I'm growing, I'm really growing, and it's a goal, and man, I've read more books and I'm growing. Look at you, you're back here, you guys, and I'm over here on the race. I'm growing to God. Look at me, I'm enlightened. And what we think is that we're going to get there, and other people we've been doing yoga with and chanting with, they're back here somewhere, or especially the people that don't do any of that, they're way back here. So I get there, wow, now I got the little Buddha button, and I'm the Buddha, I'm awakened, and look at me. And then when you get there, bam, you reach the finish line, they're going to say, where's the rest of you? And you're going to answer, well, they're back there. And you think they're talking about the rest of the people. They're going to say, where's the rest of you? Well, they're back there. No, the rest of you. What do you mean? I'm here and they're not. You missed it. What they're saying is, where's the rest of you, because you're all one. If you think you can reach enlightenment and other people aren't reaching enlightenment, you missed the point anyway. Because they're you. The person who's most belligerent, the people that are most resisting their awakening is still a part of us. We can't go, well, I made it and they didn't. It's all or nothing. The Lord thy God is one. So you can't find joy alone. So one of the ways to feel joy and happiness, I said, is connection with God. But then I also said fulfilling your purpose on earth as well. But the purpose on earth is not only for practicing forgiveness regularly, but the other thing is to bring it to the world. God, I feel so much joy. And then you drive down the street, tunnel vision, unlike those people. Look at them, they're miserable, but I feel great. You can't really feel joy without bringing it to other people. It's never a complete cycle of cause and effect if you don't bring that to other people. How can I bring others joy today? Not how can I preach it to them, not how can I push it on them. How can I bring the presence of God today? So I recognize, we are the peace and the joy of God, but it's we, all of us. So instead of some of us are going to ascend, some of us will not. Some of us will be raptured, some of us will not. Some of us will get it, some of us. None of that's true. It's all or nothing. Yes, in the illusion of time, some of us seem to get there more quickly. Some of us seem to awaken more, just a shorter route in a sense. In time, they seem to have gotten it sooner. But time's an illusion. The bottom line is, instead of thinking how quickly can I wake up, we should be thinking more in terms of, and how many can I bring with me? Now, remember, I don't mean it in the preachy sense. I'm talking about through having an effect in their lives. If I tell you about happiness and joy, and you go, wow, that's really convincing talk, then I've done a good job. But if I bring joy into your life, I've done a great job. If I can remind you that you're worth it, worth feeling peace and joy where you might not have been feeling that before. If I can bring happiness to people, that's fantastic. It's almost like providing Christmas every day. How can I make a difference? Remember the symbolism of Christmas? Those presents under the tree? It's God's presence, not gift presents. It's God's presence that we're supposed to put under that tree. And the tree is a symbol of every person on the planet. How can I bring you a Christmas gift today? Which means, how can I bring you the presence of the Christ today? In the middle of summer, or we're talking about Christmas, but it fits. Because it's not an annual holiday. It's a constant inner experience. So the world is going to continue to be tested. And I believe that this is going to keep pushing the envelope because something big is going to be happening soon and consistently. Because human beings think they're here and they can just sneak by day to day. Some thinking that at the end of their life it's all over. Others thinking, well, I'll get another shot next time around. I would not choose to live ever as though I've got several more lives to get this right. I would just choose to do it now. And be careful, because some of us go, well, but I've got grandkids. Not for long, because one of you will die, and you'll have to deal with not having them. Anything you're attached to on this planet, anything you love more than God itself, has to be taken from you to teach you that there is nothing else but God. And this all sounds religious, and it isn't. It's inner spiritual experience. And it isn't God taking things from us, but I really love my house. You're saying that I've got to lose it. No. Just don't think that it, something outside yourself or someone outside yourself, has any real value. If you love your grandchildren, love them for what they symbolize to you. And love the symbol. Love the love. What happens is people actually use other things as an excuse. Well, I would put more time into going to Sunday services, but that's the day that, I get to see my partner. Well, then bring him here. Bring him somewhere that involves spiritual growth. I've said this many times, Sundays are the day that I go bird watching. Trust me. Spiritual growth is more important than your bird watching. But go and learn something on a Sunday, integrate it, and take it to the birds, because you'll do them more good bringing this light to them than watching them through a telescope or whatever. Binoculars. I mean, God. Anyway. Sorry. But, man, humans. Every time we live in alignment with God, we're becoming the thing we just chose to be in alignment with. Guys, every time we choose to align with God and then bring that to the world, do you understand that you became that thing? By living it, you became it. But every time you don't live in congruence and in alignment with the presence of God, you're taking away from your spiritual center, your spiritual growth. Everything is like that. We're either growing or not. Now, of course, there's lessons even when we're not growing, but that's like saying I'm learning the easy way or the hard way. Why would I choose the hard way? Why would I neglect doing things that I know are good for me only to have it come around, because it'll come around again? It spirals around because your soul knows something's good for you. So it says, would you like to do this the easy way or the hard way? Growing is good for you. Let's go. Oh, no. I have my bird watching. I have my such and such. Today's the day I scrub my yoga mat, or whatever. It's like, scrub the yoga mat and go to the service. Oh, well, I don't have a car. Then tune in online. Oh, well, that would mean my turning on my computer. It takes time. It's got to boot up, excuses. And it's very revealing. It's very telling when we make excuses for not living in accordance, in alignment with God. So as I'm coming towards a close, imagine this kind of a metaphor. We think that life is a duality, which it is, but we think it's a duality between choosing God and then choosing distractions, which it is. But it doesn't look like this: God, distractions. Then we're making God part of a duality. Picture it this way: God, distractions. God is our center, distractions are on the right and the left. Wealth is a distraction, but so is poverty. Trying to be perfectly healthy is a distraction, but so is sickness. God's in the center, which means what? Semi-health? No. It means being blissed out, being centered in joy. No matter, I lean a little towards unhealth today, vitality tomorrow. And I stay centered and not invested in it. So relationships would be swinging over here. I've got a great relationship. We're so distracted looking at each other's eyes that we never do anything spiritual because we're so in love. No, you're not. You're in an addiction. And you'll figure it out soon enough. As soon as they do something you don't like and you start using phrases like, they're not the person I thought they were, that's because you were insane. And insane minds can't think very clearly. Stop looking at them in the eyes with such addiction. Instead, slow it down and communicate. And where's God in the relationship? Do you talk about God? well, I just accept them as they are, and they're not really into that. And then they kind of make fun of me for my spirituality if we go into that. So you're telling me you're bargaining, which is one of the symptoms of codependence. Good for you. You're just swinging way out here. Humans are all swingers in the worst kind of the sense. They swing way over here into the manic and way over here into the depressive. It's all still outside of the alignment. So you're centered in God, and imagine you still move a little. There's a day a little more up, a little more down, but you stay in the center. And nothing moves you. Nothing is capable, really, of moving you outside that center except yourself. We can choose to slip into the really intense hyper everything, the hyper everything, hyper wealth, hypersexuality, hyper addictions, whatever. And then we can also slip into this, I'm sad and I'm lonely. Neither of those is God, believe it or not. God is right here in the center saying, you might not have a lot of money, but you're still centered in peace and joy. You might have a lot of money, but you're centered in peace and joy. You don't swing over here into the dependence of them. You don't swing over here into the extreme versions of the need to have them. Or thinking you're accomplished when you gain it, thinking you're a failure when you don't have it. Your test is here, not out here. The test is that it's harder to stay in the center than it is to swing out to those extremes. You can be broke financially. Go rob a bank. Now how do you feel? Enlightened? You're not. And you can be wealthy and lose all your money and go, there, now I feel more like a priest and a nun from a past life. Is that more spiritual? God's like, wow, what's wrong with you people? Right here, come on, you can do it. And all we do is pass that phase while we're swinging towards another. Staying there, oh my gosh, that's the real challenge. That's the real test. It isn't what you do out here, man. It's holding that center. Try it for an hour. Then move on up to a day and a half. Grab that center and do the best you can to hold that center. And again, holding the center does not mean repressing your feelings. Holding the center does not mean, mustn't feel. Now you're becoming religious again. The ego will infiltrate everything I'm talking about. I can say God is the presence of joy. So start practicing feeling happy and joyous. The ego will still infiltrate that and find a way to try to misinterpret joy and happiness. How can I hold that center? In everything I do, the ego's right there trying to pull me off center. The Christian version of the devil made me do it. But whether you call it a devil, whether you call it an ego, it's not God. And being with God does not mean being all stoic and serious and sex less and money less, because that's another extreme of the ego again. See it for what it is. We have past lives, guys, where we've been programmed with things that are not of God. Why would you want them then? What do I really choose? The will of God. We don't even know how to interpret the will of God without having a serious connotation to it. There's a really great life, and then there's the will of God. That's what we do. That's what we do. We equate it like that. We say, Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he said, all right, just in case you missed this, Lord, I'm just letting you know, we're at this moment where I'm about to be arrested. Now, there's still time to get me out of this. I could leave the garden, sneak off, head for the south of France with Mary Magdalene. Could be cool. Now, let me check in. Or crucifixion. Wait. Nope. South of France, crucifixion. South of France, strong crucifixion. Are you watching, Lord? The body knows. Besides, the beach, sunshine, the elements, the water, the earth, who would wrong that? I'd be hanging out at the beach and getting a tan and, feeling the element. I can pray to the angels of water and earth. And so it seems to me I can even spiritualize the idea of going to the south of France. This is what we were taught. And then, but Jesus says, but let your will be done. which ended up being crucifixion. So we were programmed with the idea that we have really great ideas about our life, and then there's the will of God, which is crucifixion. You know, Lord, I would love to have a great relationship, but let your will be done. Look at what that even says. You know, I would love a prince, but a toad is fine if that's your will. That'll be fine. It is not okay. Someone lied to us, and for lifetimes. And throughout history, we actually believed it. And you wonder why it takes seemingly so much effort to break those patterns. Because they're so ingrained and so entrenched. We're talking about however many years you believe souls have existed. But let's just use a round number and say a million. Say 100 million. Say 1 billion. That's how many years we believed that it's too difficult to reconnect with that center. That's how many years in program, lifetimes. And every lifetime you've ever had, you didn't just have one. In every lifetime you had hundreds of thousands of moments of being programmed that your good is impossible. That really God doesn't want you to have ease. All the money doesn't grow on trees ideas. That life is a challenge, and this is not true. Jesus says in the Teacher's Manual of A Course in Miracles, when you try to change your life, it should be painless, but it never is. That's what he tells you. It should be painless, but it never is. And why? Because of our tenacity and holding on to the thing we're supposed to let go of. Now, what's the thing I'm talking about? Not an object, it includes objects. Our belief systems. Guys, this means that we're holding tenaciously to the belief that we deserve less than happiness. And then you go, well, come on, I don't believe that. I believe I deserve to be happy. If you totally believed it, you would have an overabundance of it every single day, and it would overflow to the people around you every day. It wouldn't be there on some days and not there on other days. And it's important for us to stop and ask ourselves, why is it I'm happy now and then I'm not? Stop and look at the days you are happy and be careful. Are those the days you get your way, egotistically? Well, those are the days when my partner remembered to tell me I was cute. Well, I would say to them, do me a favor. I'm going to fast from being told I'm cute. I need to fast from that. That's what I would do. I would say, I want to see how I feel when I'm not told that. I want to see how I feel when I'm not praised at work. Not because I want to feel bad, but I want to know if I can feel this good all the time. And not just when I'm getting ego strokes. That's what I would do. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that's what I would do. It's worth checking out. If you only feel happiness sometimes, I would be suspicious about that. It could be because you're aligned sometimes. That would be good news. But I would want to know if it's because I'm aligned or it's because I'm getting ego strokes. Can I wake up and stay aligned before I get out of bed? Most of us can't even make it feet to the floor before we're already out of our mind. But can I make it there? Can I make it from there to the shower? Can I make it from the shower to the kitchen? Can I make it from the kitchen to the car? How far can I go without losing my center? And the center means a state of love. Every time I'm walking to the kitchen or I'm walking to another room, let's say, there are thoughts that come to mind. Oh, there's more aches in the body now when I get up and move to another room. Oh, I'm aging. How can I hear that and think of the voice of God at the same time? It seems impossible, but it is possible. It's possible to notice yucky stuff of planet Earth and stay centered. You know how? Laugh. Laugh at it. Man, this is, whoa, Lord, this is pretty weird. I know that I'm a perfect holy being, and yet, damned if I don't feel a bit of ache when I get up now and then. That's the only way you can do it. That's the only way you can. You're not supposed to go, this isn't happening. Oh, this isn't happening. That's not it. And it's not just like walking. Oh, look at me. I'm walking gracefully when there's aches here and there. Nor is it to condemn yourself for feeling those aches. Know the truth, but respect the illusion. And be able to laugh. Be able to laugh at it. Be able to say, God, look, there's a car. I wish I could afford that kind of car. Well, look at the neighbor's got a new car. Stop and recognize, actually, I'm capable of creating and having anything I want. And isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that I believe that that's not possible? See it and own it and call it humorous. I know it sounds weird, but it's very healthy and good for us. Call it humorous. You know why? Because humor is usually not consistent with the word serious. So don't take it so serious that you look like you're not the holy being God created. That's a good start. Trust me. It's a good way of looking at these things. I personally, I don't feel like I hate anybody. And we can all say that, but it's really check in, I don't really feel like I hate anyone, but there are times where I will jokingly make comments that sound like that. And if somebody listens out of context, they might go, wow. But, because I just find us, the human race, to be silly and funny. And so somebody can hear that out of context. Like when I said a little while ago, man, humans. I love people, but I also can see how ridiculous people can be. But I never lose the love. If somebody who's done the absolute most harm to me, verbally or in any other way, were broken down on the side of the road, I'd probably still pull over and say, do you need help? Because I can play the game. I can say, God, that person's annoying, or God, I can't believe that person did that to me. That's so bizarre. But the difference is I don't take it seriously. I might even act like I do, but I don't. I know in my heart there's a different feeling that sometimes what I'm saying with my words. There was one person that was adequately annoying that I met here in Sedona. Did some really kind of yucky things, and they were broken down on the side of the road. And I had a couple friends in the car that were here attending a workshop, I think, and we were driving, and they could see I drive by, and there's that thing in me. I just kind of shake my head because I'm laughing at myself. You're going to go back. Yes, Michael, I know we're going to, But you know what they did? Yes, I know what they you just have these beautiful dialogues. And I turn around. Hey there, how's it going? This person just went, oh. And it was so cool because they were then in a process of how embarrassed you're pulling over to help me, and you and I both know what I did. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the point. Do you need help? And then it's making a call and getting some help, and getting them to the gas station and this and that and the other. And it's God first, guys. It's all it is. It's reality first. That's all it is. Now, if the person were doing harm and I speak up and I say, knock it off, what I'm doing is playing a role to speak to them and say, stop doing this. Some people then say, oh, he's angry at that person, like Jesus turning over the tables in the temple. And people go, oh, Jesus got really angry there. He only was making a point. He never lost his center. Try it out. Try out the ability to hold your center and then let yourself play a role. Know the truth, but respect the illusion. You see? That's the mastery again, too. Do what needs done in a given moment. Know the truth, but respect the illusion. It's so beautiful. Staying in center and yet playing a role on the stage. How can I help today? That's the real us coming through. And yet, if the person's being harmful, saying, that's enough. Ooh. It's the look. It's the look you say, like, you're raising your kids or whatever. It's the look. And inside you're like, I hope this helps. But it looks like you're angry. That's where that musician, Sting, he used to pose in all these, oh, he's so sexy. Look at him, He used to, all these poses back in the, 80s, 90s or whatever, during their heyday, the Police, and he said, where did you get that stern, sexy, masculine look? He said, I was a school teacher. That's all. It means, are you serious? It means knock it off, and yet it's a pose. So the child of God strikes it, that's all you're doing is striking a pose. Know the truth, but respect the illusion. Play the game. Be able to play the game. Be able to say no, firmly. Jesus tipping over the tables, knock it off. What are you people thinking? You're supposed to be about God, and you're not about God at all. You're in God's temple, and Jesus wasn't making the room, the building, a special place. He was saying your minds are what's special or holy, not the building, not the rocks, but what's going on in your minds. Do you guys realize you're in a symbolically holy place, but your minds are not at all in a holy space? You're actually thinking more in profit. It's okay to profit. Go into the marketplace and profit if that's what you want to do. But don't confuse the two. Don't bring ego into the place, your last chance of holiness. Because for the people, a holy sanctuary was where you go to experience God. If you try to bring ego that thoroughly into a God space, what have you got left? Think about it. What have you got left? So people are very addicted to finding distractions. How can I hold my center? How can I keep that center? Try this out. How can I keep that center? How can I bring forth the Trinity of God in my being? The creative power and bliss of the Father, the love of the Mother, and channeling it from those two right down into here, into the Son, or the child of God. The Son of God, I used just a metaphor, but into this holy child of God. How do I take this presence of the Father, Mother, God into my daily life? And we think it's about, well, let me try this and that. Start with acceptance. God created me as holy. I am very holy. Now I just have to start acting like it. And it doesn't mean the way we were taught religiously. It's more by allowing, yes, you do also have to uproot the distractions of the ego, meaning the thoughts of you that aren't very good and the thoughts of other people that aren't very good. So I'm encouraging you to know the truth. Even when you're annoyed by people, center in the God in me. I do not hate this person. I am not annoyed. In the God in me. But on the outside, is there something I can do to sort of let somebody know that such and such is not okay? And it's, sometimes you even slip a curse word. You can even do that and hold center, believe it or not. As long as you know who the I am is. As long as you don't lose sight of who you really are, the other's an actor. And you let it play the roles to most accomplish what needs done today. When Krishna said, and I've quoted many times, but when Krishna said sometimes you have to go to battle, he was never talking about letting your center battle. He was saying hold center and then let the outside look like it's going to go through the battle. Let it do what it's going to do that's as most congruent as possible to your center. When you know something's right, go ahead and act accordingly on the outside. And sometimes if you're a vet or if you're a soldier, then you're doing it out there. Sometimes if you're a ball player, you're doing it there. And it won't always look graceful on the outside. But people will not know how much center you have on the inside. They won't always know. And they don't have to know. What you have to do is you have to know. I pray this is making good sense, guys, because it's really essential stuff. Holding our center through all things. Through all things. Learning not to let the world teach us to shame ourselves, because we've done that plentifully. Okay? Let's share a moment of meditation. Centering. Tune out the world and all its stuff. Reflect back at some of the things we've covered. Joy comes from a connection with God. And every day we are tested to stay centered and connected. And there are days we allow ourselves to steer off center. But this is called a choice we made. Think about that. If I allowed myself to go off center, it means I chose to let that happen. It's never beyond our power. It's impossible. And that means if I chose to allow myself to be off center, it means that joy is a choice. And happiness is a result of joy. So it means if I'm not happy, it's because I'm not choosing to be in a state of God or a state of joy. That's not to make us feel bad for the choice. It's to make us feel empowered that we can choose again. Remembering joy and happiness come from us, from inside. It never comes from other people, other things outside of ourselves. It's important not to confuse joy and happiness with excitation and stimulation. These things come from nurturing a consistent connection with God and then doing our soul's purpose, which is manifesting the love of God in the world. And then to maintain joy and happiness, we have to bring it on. We've got to bring it forward in the world. We have to understand what joy and happiness really is and that it doesn't come from anything outside. We have to nurture our connection with God, and we have to share the love, the peace, the joy, the happiness with others. And then it pretty much locks in. It's just that we have to do this on a consistent basis. Now take a moment and think about a time when you brought joy and happiness to other people. Anything you've ever done that brought joy and happiness to other people. And if you can't think of something, first of all, you're underestimating yourself. But it could also be that you don't feel you have done that in a while and you can't remember anything. Then try. And if you can't remember anything, just trust and know that you've done so. So imagine it from there. But think about anything you've done. I don't mean to excite someone or stimulate someone. Whenever, wherever have you brought true, authentic joy and happiness to a person? Become aware of that for a moment. You can think of more than one if you like, but no more than a few so we don't get overwhelmed here. How, where, when, with whom did you bring joy and happiness? And then soak in that memory. What was it you did? What was it you did? And observe the effects. Not just the, hey, thank you for that. Try to observe energetically, clairvoyantly, the emotional effects you brought that person. Try and imagine the burden you lifted and how that might have made their life easier today. And then think about this. Isn't it likely that every time you brought joy to another person, isn't it possible, isn't it likely you were doing the very same thing that angels do? So why would we separate ourselves from that and think we've done anything less? That's just more ego. Centered. Feeling that person's gratitude. And then understand this as we're closing. Heaven is a state of joy. And you're now seeing how you brought joy to other people. Which means, karmically speaking, the good you've ever brought people, and then it's not just one, it's every lifetime that you've ever brought joy and happiness to others, it means you brought them a little bit of heaven on earth. But what heaven is going to be to you is not only going to be what good others have done to make you feel joy and happiness, but it's going to be the karmic effect, a wave of gratitude that people have felt for every time you've made them feel, helped them feel joy and happiness. Picture this, a wave. When you go to the other side, there's not an actual linear place called heaven waiting, like a building, a structure. If nothing else, and for lack of a better phrase for now, it's a feeling. But what feeling will heaven be to you on the other side? It'll be all the feelings of happiness and joy you've ever brought to anybody, washing back over you and multiplied. Recognize, therefore, the value of bringing such good, happy, joyous thoughts to people. And look at how it feels to bask in that energy. Humans learn to say, hi there. They learn to say thank you. Words. Look into the feeling of it, what you've really done for a person. How amazing. When you pay a bill for them, you hug them when they needed it. You lent an ear when they needed somebody to speak to. You gave a hug when you could give a hug, and so on and so on. Even making them feel a sense of lightness by a little levity in the right times and moments. That becomes good karma, and it's worth feeling gratitude for. So in that sense, we're giving thanks that this is abundantly present in and through us as us. And it's never wasted. We bring this joy to other people, and it comes back to us multiplied. So keep bringing that goodness, which also amounts to good karma, but that's not why we do it. We do it because it's who we are. Slowly breathe and integrate back into your body. Try to never forget these concepts shared in the meditation. That's how easy it is for us to reconnect with Spirit, with God, with heaven, by bringing heaven to other people through actions that bring joy and happiness. And gradually stretch out, please. Good.